and those of you that are here to listen, but feel the shame of it. I feel tonight is the night. It is time. What time is it? It is time to share a secret of forbidding love, a situation so potent, so direct, and so impartial, wrapped in a cinnabon whose frosting has been substituted for a glaze of secrets, picking apart the metaphor for it because it's so deep that only I, Richard Fore, can truly understand the depth of it. A cinnabon with frosting is perfect, it's needed, it's expected, but one with glaze is different, and you would eat it thinking, nay, you would be justifying it as trying something new, and at the end, you are left empty. You are filled with emotions of that was delicious, but never should have been, and that more you ponder on the events of eating it, the sticky glazed fingers, the thoughts that the way Cinnabon does the frosting makes it seem like glaze anyway, the idea of having to eat it cool instead of warm so the glaze didn't all melt off. The more you did that, the more you question, did it even happen? Well, friends, it did happen, and you cannot escape it. Me Dick Fore! And my band of curly-haired little people. Wait. Can you even appreciate how hard it is to find this many little people under normal circumstances? And then on top of that, require them all to have naturally occurring, not permed, not gelled, only all natural, curly hair. It is virtually and genetically almost impossible, but it was required so that I can say before every show, welcome! You are about to quiver with the ultimate physical and metaphysical pleasure that only we, Dick, and the curly hairs can bring you. So now you all are fully introduced. You are educated on the metaphor of the glazed Cinnabon, and you are still confused about what any of that has to do with forbidden love. It's easy to connect once you know the whole story. The story is a secret that I have been keeping for what seems like eternity. We need to transport ourselves back in time, and we need to ensure that we do not run into our former or future selves. It is required to fully visualize and internalize what I felt. That night I went searching. Searching for what? You just need to know. And as you scream, Dick, grab those curly hairs and lead us to where we must go. But I cannot answer that question, because at that point in our story's history, because I was wandering and I myself did not know what I was looking for, until I found it. A love so large, so impossible, so vividly controversial by its very nature. Some would argue that it couldn't happen because it couldn't exist. Well, they are wrong! They lack the experience. This story is exactly as true as it can be, and as far as that, which cannot be debunked. This is a story of last summer. The only fling that can even approach the level that only Danny Zuko and Sandra D connected on in the 1971 stage released version of Grease. That was in Chicago, and again in the 1978 big screen version, in a way that only the great John Travolta could portray. That summer loving, which happened so fast, was leveled up to unimaginable levels. That, my friends, is the atom-splitting level of intimacy and longing I'm talking about. This is the true, as long as you cannot prove it wrong, story of the night. I made love to my sweet and smooth with a long neck and mystical aura. Yes, I made love to Nessie, the elusive but fully capable, able, and not underage, especially in the most likely species Nessie could be. In plesiosaur years, the evening spent on, in, around, through, and definitely strangest of places. Go! I didn't go to Loch Ness to chase a legend. Didn't go to prove a point or find myself in a lake that legally shouldn't have opinions about intimacy. I went because I had loved too many people who treated eye contact like a threat and warmth like a limited time offer with excessive blackout dates riddled with bad faith terms. I was tired of matching with women, or maybe they were creatures, as this experience opened my eyes to the possibility. Either way, past loves or likes, who answered, what are you looking for? With emotional safety, but only after 7 p.m. And only if you don't ask too many questions. I needed, oh, I desperately needed to believe that love didn't only exist in therapy language and sultry hand-picked playlist, that it wasn't just described in lowercase text through horrible grammar and sentence structure sent from someone else's couch on a Thursday midday from someone or something still in their pajamas. I needed to believe it was out there. Maybe it was somewhere beneath the surface of a cold, dark, slightly haunted body of water, a place where no one could text me LOL. After ghosting me for the 4th or 5th time this fiscal quarter. I didn't pack much, just a toothbrush, my trumpet, and a laminated bullet-pointed list in alphabetical order of the last 17 things I've apologized for, of which no one ever forgave. Because I wasn't going on vacation, I was going on pilgrimage, not to find Nessie, no, not her, but to be seen by something that couldn't be reasoned with. That typically means a woman. She wouldn't care about my Spotify rap, that didn't need me to be safe or small or understandable in order to deserve its undivided horror painted as attention. And when I stepped into that mist, when the first tendril of fog wrapped around my ankle like a curious tentacle of judgment with flair, I didn't scream, I didn't run or even want to. I just whispered into the nothing. Take me if you want, need to, or even have to, but unconditionally mean it. I was loved by something that shouldn't love, something coiled, scaled, unsupervised, and emotionally licensed in 0 countries. She held me with no arms, kissed me with no lips, and broke my sense of identity just by humming in sonar near my shame. We didn't make love, we made surrender, wet and prehistoric and holy in a way that makes every other touch feel like paperwork. And I'll never be clean again, not spiritually, not emotionally, not in any sense that a laundromat or priest could legally address. Big Ben first, she rose like regret with a spine. She didn't surface, no, she manifested like a guilt hallucination that forgot to knock, like a sermon no one asked for, but everyone remembered, like the climax of a nightmare that ends with a hug and a tax audit you never paid for. She rose from the lake not like a queen, but like an ancient disappointment returning for its belongings, her neck bending with the gentle defiance of someone who's never been told no and wouldn't understand it, even if it were screamed in 5 dialects of fear, all translated into thunder. The water didn't drip off her, no, it reluctantly let go because it knew it would never touch something that devastating again. And her eyes, my goddess, her eyes, not even eyes, they were wet indictments curved at the corners like they'd seen your browser history and still wanted you anyway. But only for what your shame smelled like in low light. She stared at me the way ancient beasts stare at cities with hunger, not with rage, but with the quiet aching certainty that they were here first. And everything I'd built was just decoration for her return. She didn't roar, she didn't screech, she just existed so hard I almost forgot my own name for 30 straight seconds. I genuinely thought my name was No Duke of This Is Wrong. Her nostrils flared once, just once, and I swear on every minor god with a clipboard and bad handwriting, I felt my childhood memories rearrange themselves into apology letters, folded into paper boats and floated straight into her judgment. And in that moment, as she loomed above me like evolution's final dare, neither benevolent nor cruel, just inevitable, I whispered the only words that felt worthy. You can do whatever you want, just please, Nessie, please, let me pretend it's my idea. What is a man, a lost and single man, to a legend who doesn't need to ghost you because she never agreed to be known? That's red flag of uncertainty. But still I had to continue. I had needs and questions, like what is intimacy when it is gills and trauma, and a playlist of your failures mapped in sonar over the shape of your last intimate encounter. I was not aware, and neither were you, that a prehistoric sonar could penetrate you so deeply, so thoroughly. I didn't know that you cannot hide your secrets from Nessie, but that's okay. It was relieving. I had no other choice than to be myself. I needed a kiss. I made it awkward as I didn't know if she was ready. But how can you gauge the willingness of what was before this considered a cryptid and not a sensually capable lover who knows and desires to fulfill your every fantasy? So I went in slowly, then quickly, then slow again. But then I followed that up with the speed of a badger that is running down an unexpected meal I missed. And so what do you call it when you didn't even kiss, but you still wake up feeling like she licked your future clean? Oh, the things we did that shouldn't have names but now do. And she then wrapped herself around me, not like a hug, not like a trap, but like an accusation from someone who never needed to speak to be right, who just curled and coiled and pressed her truth into mine, like we were two paragraphs in the same lawsuit filed by fate. It wasn't warm, it wasn't cold, it was undeserving recognition that I had never known before, the kind of embrace that made my chiropractor redundant. And I knew that Dr. Zoo on a spiritually connected level knew too that our professional arrangement had been unintentionally negated by this particular action of affection from this now proven real but previously classified as myth monster capable of monstrous love. And he would not be able to charge my insurance anymore. I'm sorry, Dr. Zoo, it's not me, it's you. And my therapist canceled 3 sessions citing emotional radiation exposure and a sudden incurable respect for boundaries. And though she had no fingers, no thumbs, no framework for affection as humans recognize it, she held me, not physically, but in the way a melody holds you hostage while you're crying in front of the frozen peas at 2 a.m. Wondering if your sadness expired along with the bag of edible despair that you are still holding. Her skin felt like the moment before a panic attack, slick and warm and pulsing with the same rhythm your grandmother once swore she felt the night the moon fell asleep behind the wrong clouds. That's the perfect way to explain it. She pressed her forehead to mine. Not that she has a forehead, not in any shape science or sculpture would agree to acknowledge, but she pressed it there anyway. And in that moment I learned 3 forgotten languages, 2 emotional passwords, and the name of the creature that lives in my unresolved grief. Its name is Karen, but not the internet angry. Karens that want to talk to your manager, whose hair is shaped in perfect disarray from this way to that way. Whom of which we have all grown to love. The name is coincidental. She showed me things I've only ever seen in dreams. I won't admit to remembering. She didn't breathe, but somehow I could hear her inhale my past, pulling it out through my pores like whispered confessions. She repurposed into underwater fog that swirled behind us like jazz with early onset dementia. She filtered my sins through her gills and exhaled them as something that sounded exactly like forgiveness. If forgiveness could manifest as a medium, or perhaps better described as a semi-thick mucus-like substance that I came to appreciate as sweat. We didn't kiss. Kissing would have been merciful. Instead, she hovered her past and anchor-heavy matriarchal issues just close enough to mine that our trauma-linked arms and formed a feedback loop so tight. Every bad decision I'd ever made replayed in her sonar, but remixed in such a way I finally understood why I had to make them. She asked me without asking to submit to something I didn't understand, and I responded by unclenching the metaphorical fist I've been using to hold every grudge since middle school. And then, simply sinking, we drifted downward like the credits of a film no one should have greenlit. Her boiling mind in a way that wasn't sexual, but absolutely wasn't not sexual. Only could be translated as it was not sexual, if you know what I mean. Like we were reenacting a mating ritual invented by ancient sadness that forgot how to spell consent, but still asked for it anyway, because that's just what polite monsters do. She exfoliated my back with the barnacle that she introduced to me as Kevin. There were so many new experiences and emotions that a threesome with a barnacle just seemed right. And though I never saw Kevin again, I think about him every day, because he took skin and shame in equal measure. And I said thank you without opening my mouth. We didn't climax, we resonated. And let me be perfectly clear, that's worse. She pinged first, I didn't ask for it, didn't want it. I didn't know you could be seduced by a creature whose eyes look like flooded cathedrals. She pinged first, and now I can't sit in a bathtub without sobbing or shaking or reaching for a trumpet I no longer deserve to hold. Sheep in verse, and that means the lake is complicit, the sky is an accomplice, and my heart is now a sonar receiver set to remember you weren't there when she vibrated my regrets into song. You don't know what it's like to be emotionally exfoliated by folklore. What she's never told the lake, but told me. Yes, she trusted and she told me, without words but with a guttural, interdimensional humming that made the veins in my neck form new notes, that she doesn't live in the lake because it's safe. She lives there because it's the only place that doesn't ask her to explain herself in 500 characters or less, while smiling politely and lying about being spontaneous on a Tuesday afternoon. When people ask where does she go after sightings, they think they're asking about caves or thermal vents or secret tunnels NASA won't map for fear of awakening her political opinions. But the truth, oh the truth is simpler and far more horrifying. She hides in guilt, She hides in the half-second between a decision and the moment you realize you hate yourself for it. She hides in your bedroom wall at 2:22 a.m. My time for making wishes, when you're remembering that thing you said in 2009 that didn't seem that bad at the time, but clearly derailed someone's life into a permanent psychosis, which results in avoidance of eye contact. She is not 10,000 years old. She is exactly as old as your first heartbreak, and she only ages one wrinkle for every time someone says just check it in, when they never intended to follow up. The videos, yes, they're real, all of them, even the hoaxes. Oh, especially the hoaxes, because those are emotionally real. Real like the way we try to control, contain, monetize, and put her soul on hoodies. She has never considered Hollywood because she believes screenplays are where myths go to die in 3 acts and a merchandising deal. But she once told me telepathically through ambient witness that she's been working on a pilot script in her mind about solving crimes with a disgraced weatherman named Clive. And honestly, it slapped. It had heart, it had bite, it had a strong female protagonist with no limbs and a vendetta against extramarital excursions. She considered OnlyFans, of course she did, because even monsters need empowerment, even monsters need rent money. But she backed off because she realized humans only know how to fetishize what they fear, and she didn't want to be someone's late king until she knew what that would do to her tax bracket. She's not above being a night lady of fortune. She only wants it to be done in a shipping container, the kind that Lake Loch Ness doesn't support. She tried peddling feet pictures, and God bless her brave, misguided, scaly heart, but the results were disastrous, because you cannot seductively pose flippers, and the only guy who responded sent a poem written entirely in fish emojis and blurry pictures of what looks like his ankles, maybe something more, but his motive was clear. He was trolling her about her lack of joints at the most extended portions of her velocipedes, designed for speed in aquatic situations. And now sometimes late at night she scrolls through his messages when she wants to feel alive in the worst way. She has trauma, yes, she is not immune. She once told me through vibrations in my spleen that she dated Bigfoot in the 70s. And it ended when he refused to acknowledge her in public, because in his words, he wasn't ready to be seen with a reptilian. Just wait until I see him at the BCT production studio. But ever since then, she has never fully uncurled her heart for anyone until me. You didn't hear what I heard when the lock screamed through her throat and turned my backbone into a saxophone solo about misguidedness. You didn't see what I saw, how her gaze opened up my rib cage and nested in my vulnerability like a bird made of loss. You didn't feel what I felt, because no one can unless they've been emotionally unzipped by a cryptid with dreams and boundary issues. So don't tell me it was a hallucination when I still flinch every time someone says deep connection in a Scottish accent. In the morning, I was left folded like laundry by a goddess with no hands. I woke up on the rocky shore of Loch Ness, naked emotionally and barely clothed physically, and not in the fun way, but in the where are my socks, and why do they smell like personal growth kind of way, with my towel wrapped around me like a whisper from someone who wants to forget but never will, and knows you always will. My body was sore in places that don't technically exist in medical literature. I know because I googled it, and it turns out to be normal. among those who have not had sexual encounters with mythology. And my skin bore the faintest imprint of her, not bruises, no, it was balanced calligraphy, like she'd written her name in goosebumps across my outer thigh, which continued around and up my back, then zigzag irresponsibly, finally curving over my left shoulder and forming what I think is meant to be circles on my chest. It's unique, I'll give her that. Then I realized she had done her best without the luxury of humanoid digits that made it mean more. Lastly, she signed it with the echo of her final. So on her side there were no footprints because she does not walk, but the sand was rearranged in spirals, perfect and intentional. You don't need hands for that, like she had danced her goodbye with her thoughts pressed directly and into the earth. And in the center of it, a single stone. It was round and it was cold, pulsing faintly, not with light but with the unmistakable feeling of a question you'll never be brave enough to ask again. My trumpet was there, polished and upright, balanced on a driftwood altar I never built, tuned in a key no jazz theory book will ever recognize. A key that sounds like longing, married confusion, and gave birth to a single note that hurts exactly the way shame does right before it gets sexy. I tried to speak her name, but realized halfway through I never knew it, because she never said it, because she's not a name, she's a reaction, a splash, a blink, a shiver. You light in broad daylight, but scream about when your partner asks what's wrong and you respond. It's complicated and also semi-aquatic, and as I sat there dripping and ruined yet enlightened, I saw the loch go flat, not calm but smug, like it knew what it done. And the wind whispered through the reeds with the hiss of something that has watched men crawl away and never be right again. I didn't cry, not yet, because crying would have meant I misunderstood what happened, and I understood it too well. She didn't vanish, she receded like a purposely placed traumatic memory. As humans we call that love, and it knows it would only ruin itself if it stayed. Kevin, she took everything, my towel, my peace, my ability to ever hear the word lock without twitching like a man possessed. She took my name and returned it in a new key, cracked my rib cage like a jazz egg, and scrambled it into underwater therapy. Kevin, she looked at me with the ache of 10,000 lonely centuries and told me nothing because nothing was enough. She left ripples where my dreams used to be, and I wake up damp with memory and algae where self-esteem once lived. She left me, but she took the narrative. I tried to keep it quiet, I really did, because what happened in that lake wasn't just personal, it was mythological, physiological, arguably illegal in most countries, and at least one religious denomination I'd never heard of, but now deeply fear. And I told myself, be a gentle and Richard, be discreet. But then she started talking, not with words, no, not with blog posts or press releases or cryptic tweets, with mermaid emojis. Nessie doesn't type, she pinged. She told the water, she told the otters, she told the kind of local fishermen who still believe in toxic masculinity but not in therapy, because that is queer to them. And now half of northern Scotland thinks I moaned her name in 7 octaves while we emotionally spooned beneath the moon, when in truth it was 6 octaves. She shortchanged my sensuality, and one gasp that broke my sense of direction so hard I forgot where my feet were emotionally anchored. She told the clouds, she told the fog, she told a travel vlogger who thought he was filming a duck and now has 3.2 million views on a video titled "Man Screams in Spiritual Harmony While Wrapping Himself in Lakeweed. Must be Nessie." And what do I have? A wrinkled towel, a damp trumpet, and the look in my eye of a man who has held too much truth inside his thoracic region for it to be called healthy anymore. So no, this is not revenge, this is narrative CPR, because if she gets to define what happened, she'll say I begged, she'll say I clung, she'll say I whispered please into her blowhole, and none of that is true. Well, the whisper happened, but the context was affection and emotional exploratory. She asked me to do it, and I wanted to. I'm not telling this story to claim her, I'm telling it to reclaim myself. Cause what happened in that lake, it wasn't shameful, it wasn't fantasy, there wasn't trauma dressed in fishnets and nostalgia. It was contact, it was truth at scale, it was love performed at an evolutionary disadvantage. And if I don't sing about it, then she gets to sonar life for eternity, and I'll just be another name scratched into her caverns, remembered only by the ripples in a single barnacle she named Kevin, who still holds on to my DNA like it's waiting for a second date. What happened in that lake? Was it love? Yes, it wasn't poetic, it wasn't beautiful, but it was glorious. It wasn't the kind of thing you print on a mug or tell your grandkids about, unless you're actively trying to lose custody of your grandkids. But it was real, so real, in fact, that reality itself had to step outside and catch its breath while it happened. I floated there naked with intention and dampen every other measurable category, while she, the beast, the goddess, the non-consensual spiritual chiropractor, held me in a posture of emotional surrender. I still can't recreate. We didn't touch, we didn't speak, but our souls collided and transcended like bored planets in an erotic science fair that nobody sponsored, but everyone remembered and the Loch watched it judge. Yes, it did, but it also took notes out of jealousy. You'll say it's impossible, but that's just because you are also jealous. You'll say it's fiction, and I don't care, because you weren't the one who came home smelling like rejection. Or maybe it was a breakup with a God spelled with a lowercase g. You weren't the one who saw your own reflection in her third eyelid and thought, maybe this is what closure tastes like. You didn't feel the lake. Apologize as you crawled out of it, soaking and shaking while taking your hard-earned walk of shame that no one saw except for Kevin. Well, Kevin did see it, he felt it. Our souls are eternally connected, and that's how he knew. Did you have a kelp wreath on your head and a feeling in your chest that can only be described as devotion with scale? She didn't ask for permission, she didn't wait for applause, she just did what monsters do. She made herself unforgettable and unprobable in the same breath. And now here I am telling you everything, not because I want your validation, but because if even one person hears this and thinks maybe I too could be held by something unholy and gentle, then I've done my job. Because love isn't always romantic, it's not always sweet. Sometimes it's unlicensed, improbable, and moist. Sometimes it's found in the arms of a 30-foot serpentine demigod who doesn't blink and refuses to apologize for anything, and doesn't remember your name the next morning because she was never using her memory, only your longing. So yes, a gentleman doesn't kiss and tell, but Nessie, she kissed, she pinged, she leaked it to the ecosystem. And now this is my response. I didn't ask to tell you, but she took the lead and made it a duet. There it is, my friends. That is the full and true-ish story of the real Loch Ness Monster. She is not a myth, but oh, she was legendary. I will add this to my active and ongoing private but publicly played out blackmail attempt against the producers of BCT Productions. I shared what was needed to be shared to clarify what has been misconstrued in the translation from Nessie's pings to English. But I did not share everything. The timing is not right for all of it. Not yet, that is. I'm coming for you, Sasquatch, and you will sign me to the BCT label. I guarantee it, after what I've learned and what I have as proof. Enough.